So moving on to the hands and feet now. I've decided that I think the simplest way to do this is basically to cut in that 2.5mm sheet the shape of the foot, and then a bit like the head and the neck armour, I'm going to build up some meat with a welder and then do the sculpting. This first foot here I attached to the body, and then obviously discovered that it was very difficult to get in there and sculpt it, so whilst I've built up some weld there on the foot, you can see I'll actually end up cutting the figure off the base plate to sculpt that. So I'm moving on to the second foot here. Again, I've cut the shape of the foot, and then I'm putting some meat on the top, and then I'm basically running a bead of weld down each toe that gives the impression of a tendon moving up into the foot. That gives me the approximate shape of the foot. A little bit messy here, so I'm just cutting down between the fingers, and then a whole load of sculpting begins. Trying to get the bulk of the meat off with a flat disc on the angle grinder, and then it's a huge amount of Dremel work. So that's the second foot attached to the body. We'll do a little bit more sculpting on that in the final stage of the build. But now I'm going to concentrate on the Predator's left hand, the aiming hand. So again, I've just cut out the rough shape of the hand, and I will bend the outsides of the hand down, which will form a sort of cup of the palm. And at that point I will then add a little bit of meat around the underside and on the back of the hand as well. And once again, I'm going to lay a few beads of weld here down the hand to give the impression of tendons. And then, as you can see, I'm just going to get right in there with this diamond cutting disc on a Dremel and sculpt it. Probably not the best tool for the job, but with a bit of perseverance and a bit of time, it can give quite good results. So that's the hand going on there. I've had to lay quite a thick bead of weld around the wrist in order to get it on. Okay, so I've got one more hand left to do, but I need to finish the gauntlet on the left hand before I do that, and that means making these two slashing blades. So a couple of bits of 2.5mm sheet clamped in the vise next to each other with a template drawn on one, and then I can cut two identical pieces in one. Made this little box section that fits on the top of the gauntlet, and what I'll do is with the Dremel I'll just cut two little slots in the front of that, slide the blades in, and then weld them from the inside, and then weld over the outside, and then just clean it up so it's a nice flush finish on the top. Okay, so we got a couple of feet and a hand, and now I need to make a spear and another hand that throws it. So I've got a couple of old screwdrivers. Going to see what I can't do with them and this. Right, obviously it doesn't look much like a hand at the moment, it's more like one of those big gloves, but that will all be sculpted later on. This is just the elementary shaping of the fist. Let's crack on with that. I've got to bend it around something with around about that radius, and I think I have a spoon handle that is about the right size. So having never made a figure before, certainly never tried to sculpt hands or feet, I'm having to use my own hands as a reference here. So you'll see me regularly looking at my hand, and sometimes I'll pick up a hammer or something like that, and I'll close my fist around the handle so I can see you know, how a hand looks basically, and that's where I got my reference points from. Here I'm just building a little bit of meat on the inside of the thumb, and on the other side as well, with the way the little finger and the thumb meet at the wrist, there's quite a bit of additional meat to the hand there that needs to be added and then sculpted.
Okay, bit of sculpting now, bit of tidying up. So that's not too bad. What I need to do, apart from tidying that up a little bit, is to make a couple of little pieces to go on the spear. So we'll check a photo and then we'll see what we can do. Got our 4 pieces, quite hot. Let's get them on. Thin metal getting pretty hot. Okay, so time to do a bit of Dremel work to clean this up. I'm armed with a fresh cup of tea. Let's crack on. Right, 10 minutes work, something like that. Pretty good. Give that a wire brush and clean it up. Next job is I want to make a skull and a spine. A standard predator trophy that's going to hang off his back. So I'm going to try and make it with this solid grade bolt. I'm going to clean that up. I'm going to fill that with weld. And then I'm going to shape it into the top half of the skull. Drill in the eye sockets and the nose. And then add a spine.
Yeah, so when I say bolt, obviously I mean nut. I think it's a fairly self-explanatory process. You can see I'm just a bit like the neck and the head and everything else. I'm just adding meat with the welder and then sculpting it to shape with this flat disc on the angle grinder, marking the position here of the eyes and the nose sockets. So I'll drill them with an incredibly blunt drill, and then using a little carbide burr, I'll go in there and just clean the holes out a little bit. There'll be a little bit more sculpting of this skull towards the end of the build. So right now I've just moved on to make the spine, which is that shower rack, and I'm just putting grooves in every couple of millimeters to simulate the effect of vertebrae, and then shaping it to a spine-like curve in the vise.
Okay, good. Skull and spine. Now I need to get it on here. That's on. Okay, the next job is to make a necklace. Something a little bit like that, and I want to concentrate now on the skull. And I think I might be able to do something with a teaspoon. So I'm just going to try and mark a design up, and I'll see what I come up with.
So like most other things, quite a fiddly little build this. Just cutting out the eye sockets here, and I'll form the bottom of those sockets by welding a couple of nails on, and then I'll just cut the excess off, and the tips of the nails I'll bend over at 90 degrees that form 2 teeth that make it look a little bit like a saber-toothed tiger. And then I'm laying a little bit of weld along the top to form 2 ridges. And the necklace itself, just made of 5 nails welded together. Probably should have put it on before the hair. It was very difficult to get in there, but the end result was pretty good.
Okay, got the necklace and the skull on there. I want to put some like ivory tusk kind of things on there. So a little bit of scrap rod. I think you know what's coming next. Okay, flat battery, you missed a little bit. Just doing a little bit of detailing. So we've added this patterned spoon handle to the side of the backpack, match the contours. There's another one on here, top of the gauntlet. A couple of little spots there which I'll detail a bit more. And I'm going to try and get another one of these handles on the other side here. Kind of like the way that turned out. Also, I have this which I used for the belt buckle in the same set, so it'd be kind of nice to put something like that on. So I can offset it to one side, have a couple of pipes or something coming out. So that's nice. I'm going to do that. I'll cut that off. Go there. Okay, some good progress, some good detail here. Got the necklace in with the skull, a few tusks, spear, a little bit of work on the gauntlet. Got the other gauntlet, a little bit more detail. Shoulder cannon, blades, a little bit of detail there. Got some detail on the backpack. Skull and spine trophy. Skirt. Starting to look pretty sick.